Good evening, everybody. So let's start with our motivation. And come back again once more to the fact that our life is dependent on the kindness of others, the kindness of people we know, beginning with our parents or whoever took care of us when we were little, kindness of teachers and so on. How much our lives depend on strangers who are involved with producing the food that we eat, the buildings we live in, the clothes we wear, the medicines we use, and so forth. And even the kindness of people who challenge us, who dislike us, and who push our buttons, because they're often the ones that make us grow. And without them, we would just stew in our complacency. So recalling how we're interrelated with them, then let's make the actions we're about to do of listening and contemplating the Dharma something that we will want to influence them in a positive way. It may not influence them directly, but indirectly by our learning the Dharma and putting it into practice, then later on we'll have more skills, we'll be able to meet those people who and those beings that we don't know now. And because of the practice we do now, at that time we'll have more ability and fewer impediments to act for their benefit. Still, we put what we're about to do within that context of repaying the kindness, returning the benefit, making our lives meaningful through sharing the teachings with others. So maybe sometimes you get tired. Remember the benefit to benefit sentient beings. Remember the kindness of sentient beings. Oh God, she said it last week. Now she's saying it again. In the meantime, different people were very uncooperative this week, and they insulted me, and they, got my way. And again, she's saying I have to appreciate their kindness. Do you ever feel that way? You all look so sweet and innocent. Of course we feel that way. We're ordinary sentient beings with garbage minds. So that's why we keep getting reminded of it each week. Yeah. If we weren't sentient beings with garbage minds, then we wouldn't need to have to keep being reminded and have to keep thinking about it. Okay. So, I'm going back to Precious Garland by Nagarjuna. And so last week we were we were talking about the reflection, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, okay. Then I didn't go, I jumped the section that he had in the book here at this point, because it doesn't really fit here in this chapter. But I think it's good to go over it anyway. And it continues on from the teaching next Friday. Oh, which reminds me, by the way, next Thursday and next Friday there won't be teachings, evening teachings, because Guy is here. So you can put something else on the web or, yeah, play hopscotch or something. Okay, so he was talking, though, about how the I appears to the innate I grasping, you know, as if it were something that were completely independent of everything else, including the body and mind. Yeah, and how we can see this most clearly when there's a strong emotion, when we're very upset about something, or we're totally overjoyed and giddy, you know, how the I appears at that time. And it appears as something independent that is also mixed in with the body and mind. So we have to be quite clever and to notice this, because it very easily hides, and instead sometimes the color and shape of the body instead appears to be the person, or maybe the collection of aggregates appear to be the person. Okay, so if that's the case, then we haven't yet identified the object of negation. Okay, it has to be something that appears independent of the body and mind, and yet somehow mixed in with them. So that's the first of the 4 points, you know, to identify the object of negation, how the I appears to the innate I-grasping mind. Okay, so why this is important is because the innate I-grasping mind is the root of our samsara, the root of our cycling in death and rebirth again and again. And it's the root because by grasping or misapprehending how the I exists and how other phenomena exist, then we develop afflictions, we create karma, the karma ripens, and we experience dukkha. Okay, so then the second point in the 4-point analysis is called the pervasion. And what that means is, if the I exists truly or inherently as it appears to, it's got to be either completely identical with the aggregates, or as a whole, or one of the aggregates, or something that's totally separate from them. There's no other choice. The reason there's no other choice is because we're talking in terms of true existence. If we were speaking in terms of just regular, conventional, nominal existence, then you don't have those paramitas, those parameters. Sorry. Yeah, you don't have those parameters because, you know, that you can have one thing dependent on another, but in terms of inherent existence, things cannot have a dependent relationship. So then they have to be either inherently one and the same or inherently totally different. There's no third choice. Okay. So then with the third point, we begin to analyze to see how the I exists. So we're not actually searching for the inherently existent I. What we're doing is seeing how the I exists. Okay, so then does the I exist as one and the same with the aggregates? So then we look at the aggregates individually. Is the I, our body? Is it our feelings? Is it our discriminations? And so forth. And, really doing some analysis like that can be quite interesting, because sometimes we feel very strongly, I am my body, because we were talking last week about how we develop so many identities based on the body. So we could easily feel this is me, And like when somebody's hitting us, don't hit me. You don't say, don't hit my body. You say, don't hit me. Okay. So that's not actually the innate I grasping, thinking, don't hit me when we're referring to our body. Okay. That's not the innate I grasping. Yeah. But still, we can see how sometimes, how the way we think of the relationship of the body and the aggregates gets very confused. Yeah, we're not at all, because sometimes it's like, don't hit me. And then other times we look and we say, this body is uncomfortable. We should say, I am uncomfortable. Okay. Sometimes we refer to it as my body. Well, it can't be my body and me at the same time. Okay? Because my body is different than me, isn't it? It's not me, it's my possession. Okay, but it's just showing how our, the way we relate is quite confused. We keep changing things. One moment it's me, one moment it's my body. Okay, then, so we go through all the aggregates. We can't find the self in any of them. And then we look at the aggregates as a whole. Can't find the person in there either. It seems like you should be able to find the person in the collection of aggregates. Well, I'm not my body because I also think, so I've got to be my mind. Well, I'm not only my mind because I also walk, so the body needs to be there. So then you have the body and mind there. So you think, oh, this has got to be me. Okay, but a collection is a compilation of parts. None of those parts are me or I. So how can you have a collection of things that are not me become me? Doesn't work. Okay, so the collection of the aggregates can't be me either. Then we look and see if the I is separate from the aggregates. Yeah. Which means that the aggregates could be here and the person could be somewhere else, or the person could exist without either the body or mind existing. And again, none of those possibilities make any sense at all. And so then when we see that the I doesn't exist as identical with the body and mind, or as separate with the body, from the body and mind, then the only conclusion we can come up with is that there's no inherently existent I. Yeah, because if it existed, it should have existed as one or different, and it doesn't exist either way. So I just went through it very quickly. Here you have to go through it when you're meditating in more depth, okay, and really think about it, and think about, well, what are the problems? Yeah, if I am my aggregates, if I am my mind, yeah, because that's the aggregate we tend to identify as me, because it goes from life to life. So if I'm my mind, yeah, then there's also some problems. Because if I and the mind are exactly one and identical, then we don't need two different terms. They should be completely synonymous, so that whenever we said my mind, we could substitute I, and whenever we said I, it would be just as meaningful to substitute the mind. So if we were our mind in that way, then when we say, I'm walking, we should also be able to say, my mind is walking, because they're one and the same. There's no difference between them. But nobody would say, my mind is walking. Yeah? Or my mind is sick to its stomach. Yeah? My mind is riding a bicycle. Yeah? Okay. Okay. And then there's also the problems we went through last Friday night when we were going through this, that, then if the aggregates arise and cease, then the mind must arise and cease in the same way. So then if the mind is arising and it's inherently existent, when it ceases, it goes totally out of existence, and the next moment of mind is a totally different mind. So then where's the continuum between one moment of mind and the next moment of mind? Okay. Sometimes when we think about past, present, and future, we have this idea of like a, the 8mm cameras, one frame at a time. So, as if the present is just kind of, they're all different frames going through, but one frame isn't the other. And, and one frame isn't a continuation of the other. They're two separate things. Yeah. But, so we feel like that, but that's not how one moment of mind or one moment of the self relates to the next moment. They're continuity. Yeah. So they're not flicker flames of one coming into existence, going out of existence, next one comes in, goes out, next one comes in and goes out. Okay. Because if it were like that, then each moment of the self and each moment of the mind would be entirely separate from the preceding moment. Yeah. In which case, how could, we create karma today and have it be experienced tomorrow or the next life or whenever, because whoever the self was in the future would be a totally different person than the one who created the cause. And that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And it's also problematic because if we could experience the results of an action done by a totally different person, then, like if my yesterday's me were a totally different person than today's me, then you're a totally different person than me, so I should be able to experience the karma that you create, because you're equally as totally different from the present me as my yesterday's me was. Okay, so then things get completely screwy, nothing makes sense. Okay, so you contemplate like that and begin to see the disadvantages, of having any of those beliefs, and then you reach the conclusion that the I, does not exist inherently, and because it doesn't exist inherently, therefore it's empty of inherent existence. Okay, so often we can go through all the reasonings, but nothing kind of moves us in our heart, and that's because we don't really have a feel for the object of negation. Yeah, we're saying all the words. Oh yes, I'm negating the I that appears independent from everything else and yet mixed in with the body and mind. So we say that, but it doesn't bring any feeling. We don't, those words don't resonate with us. For example, when we're saying, I'm furious because that person criticized me. The words, we can't relate those words to our feeling of I at that time. Okay? So we have to learn to really see in our own experience what that object of negation is, not just to repeat the words. Yeah, because we've got to feel like, this is who I am. And And if this doesn't exist, then I don't know what exists. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Then we'll go on to the, okay, so we did we're on verse 33, aren't we? So without depending on the mirror, the reflection of one's face is not seen. Likewise, without depending on the aggregates, there is no notion of an I. Okay? So without the mirror, the reflection of our face doesn't exist. Okay? The face, the reflection of the face is a dependent arising, based on many things. The mirror, the light, ourselves standing, our bodies standing somewhere. So the face in the mirror, there's no face in the mirror, but the reflection itself, the reflection of a face, is a dependent arising. Okay? Similarly, without the aggregates, the innate I-grasping doesn't arise. Okay? And so to understand this, we have to understand how the I that is designated in dependence upon the aggregates appears to that mind. Okay? So through this, we understand the appearance of the I depends on the aggregates. However, the aggregates do not appear to the innate I-grasping. Okay? So what's happening is you have the appearance of the aggregates. Yeah? On the basis of that, we label I. Then when you just have a regular apprehension of I, not the I-grasping, but just a regular apprehension of I, that I that you're apprehending is the mere I that exists by being merely labeled. And it's that I that is the focal object or the apprehended object. You're not apprehending. The aggregates are not the apprehended object. The aggregates are the basis of designation. Okay? So what we have is, first we have the appearance of truly existent aggregates. Okay? On the basis of that, a truly existent I appears. Okay? That I is the object, the conceived object, the apprehended object of the innate I-grasping. Okay? So because we saw the aggregates as inherently existent, we then see the I as inherently existent. The I-grasping, is erroneous with respect to its conceived object and its apprehended object because there's no inherently existent I. That's why it's a wrong conception, because it's erroneous with regard to them. Okay, so without the appearance of the I-grasping, without the appearance of the aggregates, the I-grasping doesn't arise. Okay. So the order in which the self-grasping of persons and self-grasping phenomena arise is first, there's the self-grasping of phenomena when the mind grasps the aggregates as truly existent. The minute after that, there's the self-grasping of the person, because based on the aggregates appearing truly existent, then the person appears truly existent. Okay. However, when we go about realizing emptiness, first we realize the emptiness of the person, and then the emptiness of the aggregates. Okay, so the way in which they're generated, first is the self-grasping of the aggregates, then the self-grasping of the person. And that's because the person can't appear without the aggregates being there. Yeah, because in order just to know that there's a person there, you have to hear their voice, see their body, something. There has to be an aggregate there to know that there's a person there. So first there's the self-grasping of the aggregates, then there's the self-grasping of persons. That's the order of generation. When we're meditating on emptiness to try and undo all of this mess, first we realize the self-grasping of persons, then the self-grasping of phenomena. The reason for this is that it's easier, so they say, to realize the self-grasping of persons than it is to realize the self-grasping of phenomena, because just even on a conventional level, it's easier to see that the I exists imputed, as something that's imputed. It's easier to realize that than to understand that the aggregates are merely imputed. And the reason is because to know the person, you have to perceive the body or the voice or their mind or something else in order to know there's a person there. Okay? So it's easier to see that the I is merely imputed because it depends on the aggregates. Yeah. It's harder to see that, the table is merely imputed because we look and the table's just right there. You don't need to apprehend anything else to see the table. It's just there. So it appears to our mind. Okay. 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 Another reason why we first, when we meditate, we first realize the selflessness of persons, then the selflessness of the aggregate, is that the selflessness of the persons is a much greater hindrance to our own welfare than the self-grasping of phenomena, because it's the self-grasping of persons, in particular, that gives rise to attachment, anger, pride, jealousy, things like that. Okay, so if we look at it, my grasping the cup as truly existent isn't nearly as big of a problem as my grasping myself as truly existent. Okay, so they say that I grasping, is the first thing, because it's the real big root of samsara, then we have to take it down first. Okay, but we're going to get into that a little bit more in future verses. Okay, 34. Having heard this kind of topic, and that is emptiness, the Arya Ananda obtained the Dharma I. Then he repeatedly taught this topic to monastics. Okay, so this is talking about the cause of liberation, and it's, again, emphasizing this point that to attain liberation, we have to realize the emptiness of inherent existence of both the person and the aggregates. When we look at the different Buddhist philosophical schools, not all of them say that. In fact, the Prasangika is the only one that says that. All the others say to attain liberation, you only need to realize there's no self-sufficient, substantially existent person. They don't even say you have to realize a selflessness of phenomena or the emptiness of inherent existence of the person. Okay, it's much easier according to the other schools. Yeah, but so the Prasangikas want to show, no, what the other schools are saying is limited. You really have to see that the I isn't inherently existent, and also the aggregates. So this verse, okay, is talking about the Buddha's personal attendant, Ananda, and he first realized emptiness by means of inference, that is conceptually. Then he realized it directly. That's called obtaining the Dharma eye. So he saw the nature of reality clearly, non-conceptually, attain the Dharma eye. That was the path of seeing, and at that time he also became an Arya. Okay, then by practicing more and really familiarizing his mind with emptiness, then he came to the point where he was able to remove all the afflictive obscurations from his mind, and at that point he became an Arya. An Arhat, sorry. Okay, so he became an Arhat. Okay, so even though Ananda attained Arhatship after the Buddha's parinirvana, okay, the Buddha had previously predicted that he would do this, okay, and that Nanda would do many vast actions for the doctrine, to support the Dharma. So in the verse that I just read, Nagarjuna is referring to a sutra statement that proves that realizing emptiness of inherent existence is the cause of liberation. Okay? So this point needs to be proven to all the Svatantrika Madhyamikas and everybody below, because they don't say that. They say only have to realize emptiness of self-sufficient support, substantial existent person. Okay? So the Buddha, finding this sutra passage and Nagarjuna quoting it, then makes all the people from these other schools rethink their view. Okay? Okay, now we're going to move into a section that is talking, especially talking about how bondage, meaning samsara, and liberation, meaning nirvana, do not exist inherently. Okay? So this is actually quite important, because sometimes we might say, okay, well, I don't exist inherently, but my samsara does, Or, okay, maybe samsara doesn't exist inherently, but nirvana does. It's some absolute, rarefied, dimension in another universe that is an absolute reality that doesn't depend on anything else. Yeah, many people, it's very easy to think like that about nirvana. It's just out there in some, space, unborn, uncreated, unrelated to anything else, some absolute reality in another universe. But it's not. Nirvana does not exist inherently. If it did, it couldn't exist. Okay, so now verse 35, we're coming back to the aggregates and the self again here, okay? As long as one grasps the aggregates, one will also grasp the self. So remember before we were saying, we grasp at inherently existent aggregates, then we grasp at an inherently existent person dependent on them. If one grasps the I, karma will be created again, and due to that karma, one will again be born. Okay, so as long as one grasps the aggregates, one will also grasp the I with regard to them. If one grasps the I, then we'll create karma again, because from the I grasping comes the afflictions, comes the karma. And due to that karma that's created under the influence of the ignorance of the ultimate truth, then that karma, when it ripens, it propels another rebirth. Okay, so it's talking about how we get reborn. Okay, so the self-grasping of persons, specifically grasping at our own I, which is called jigta, view of the transitory collection. That's the old translation. I like calling it view of a personal identity. Jigta, that view of a personal identity, is grasping our own I as truly existent. So that's the real troublemaker for my samsara. Grasping you as truly existent is not my big problem. It's grasping me as truly existent, okay? So we have the broad thing of selflessness Then underneath that, we have the selflessness of phenomena, the selflessness of persons. Underneath the selflessness of persons, we have the view of I should say self, all these things, the self. Sorry, I was talking about selflessness. Let's go back to self. We have this, we're going to talk about grasping at non-existence, okay? So first there's grasping at a self of phenomena and grasping at the self of person, okay? Within grasping at the self of person, there's grasping at the self of my person, of I, which is also called the view of the transitory collection, or view of a personal identity, or the Tibetans call it jigta. And then there's viewing everybody else as truly existent. All the self-grasping in general, we can say, is the cause of samsara, but the self-grasping of our own I is the real troublemaker, okay, the big one. Okay, so as we mentioned before, the order of generating them is first the self-grasping of phenomena. We hold the aggregates as truly existent, then the self-grasping of persons. Okay, and the order for realizing them is the exact opposite. Okay. So here we talk about the conceived object, yeah? The conceived object of the self-grasping of aggregates is truly existent aggregates. The conceived object of the self-grasping of the person is a truly existent person. Okay, so the conceived object is the object that we're conceiving, and the self-grasping is erroneous with respect to it because a truly existent aggregates or truly existent person don't exist at all. That's why the grasping at true existence is an erroneous mind, because its conceived object or its apprehended object, you could say either one, don't exist. It's mistaken with respect to them.
So conceived means apprehended here as well?
Well, it's better to say conceived in the case of conceptual minds, conceived objects and apprehended objects have the same meaning. But when we're talking about like sense consciousnesses or directly perceiving minds, they don't have a conceived object because they're non-conceptual. They only have the apprehended object. Okay? But the grasping at true existence is considered a conceptual mind. Even though we're not sitting there with words thinking, I think this is truly existent, because we don't even know what the word truly existent means, so we're not, the innate mind is not even thinking that. Okay? So, it seems kind of strange here, because this verse is saying, as long as there's grasping at the aggregates, there's going to be grasping at the I. But if that's the case, how do you realize the selflessness of the person first, and then the selflessness of the aggregates? How's that going to work? Because how are you going to realize the selflessness of persons if, as long as you have the self-grasping of the aggregates, you're going to have the self-grasping of the persons? Yeah, are you getting it? It's like, how's this going to work? Okay, it seems contradictory. So what it means is, okay, there's different levels of grasping. There's the acquired grasping, which is sometimes translated as artificial grasping, but I think acquired is better. And then the innate grasping. The innate grasping is the one that just goes automatically from one life to the next. And it's what I said, we're not sitting there thinking, oh, I'm grasping at a truly existent me, I really believe this. The innate I grasping is just there. It's not even talking in words. It's so difficult for even us to realize when it's manifest, okay? The acquired grasping at true existence is what we learn by wrong philosophies or wrong psychologies. And so the acquired grasping we get from learning wrong reasons, you know, that are proving inherent existence, but they're wrong reasons, so they can't really prove inherent existence. So for example, you know, different people who say, well, if things don't truly exist, then they don't exist at all. So therefore, things are truly existent. So you hear that reason, and you say, oh, that makes a lot of sense. If things don't truly exist, then there's nothing there. So things must truly exist. So you're thinking that things truly exist due to some reason, this reason or that reason, that's the acquired eye grasping. Okay? Yeah. So the acquired eye grasping it's not innate, you know, it doesn't go from life to life. Yeah, we learn it in a particular lifetime, but it can still be very, very powerful, because you see all these people who can't even hear teachings on emptiness, because just even hearing the words, things are empty of true existence, freaks them out, and they think nothing exists. Okay? So the acquired eye grasping is not, as you know, the main problem. It's the innate one, but still, it's a big problem. Okay, so what this verse is talking about is, as long as our acquired grasping at the aggregates has not been subdued, then we can't realize the selflessness of the person. Okay, so when the verse said, as long as the we grasp at the eyes, grasp the aggregates as truly existent, then the grasping at the person, we're going to grasp the person as true existent. What there is its meaning is, you know, in terms of, you know, removing them, is that as long as the acquired eye grasping is there in the mind, with all of its reasons, saying, this is why the aggregates are truly existent, and that's why the aggregates are truly existent. As long as that's going on in our mind, there's no way we can realize that there's no truly existent person. Okay? So what we're getting at is, you can, even though the verse, if you take it literally, it sounds like you have to first realize the emptiness of the aggregates and then the emptiness of the person, which we're told, no. You know, what it's meaning is we just have to have the very gross acquired grasping subdued a little bit, so that there's the space in the mind to realize the emptiness of the person. Okay? That's what it means. Okay. Okay. And the thing is that, you know, until we realize that, as long as we grasp that the I is truly existent, okay, then karma is going to be created again and again. Why? Because based on this idea that there's a real me, then we have to protect ourselves. So attachment arises for everything that makes us happy, everything that's conducive for our well-being. You know, we have to fight off enemies and threats and unpleasant experiences. So therefore anger arises. Yeah. Out of this anger, out of this attachment, then we create karma. And also because we just in general get very confused about what to practice and what to avoid on the path. You know, we study, you know, when it comes to studying karma, you know, oh yes, the 10 paths, you know, pathways of action. Yeah, don't kill and don't do this and don't do that, you know. Yeah. But then when we're in a situation, what do I do? is this virtuous or is this non-virtuous? Yeah, do you find that happening for yourself? You know, yeah, you can name the 10 destructive actions, like bam. But in your life, yeah, then all this confusion arises. Well, I don't have anything, and somebody else has more than they need, so, you know, my life is at stake. I should preserve my life for the benefit of the Dharma, so it should be okay to take what belongs to this person. Or the Robin Hood mentality, let's rob from the rich and give it to the poor. That's not really stealing. Yeah. Or somebody threatened that they were going to kill themselves if I don't go to bed with them. Well, I don't want to be responsible for their suicide, you know? So maybe better do that. Yeah. So, you know, things happen that we get very confused. Yeah. Oh, I took this precept not to drink, but all my friends are drinking and they're criticizing the Dharma because I'm not drinking. And they create so much negative karma by criticizing the Dharma. And I don't want them to create that negative karma, but if I drank, then they would think the Dharma would be good and they would create positive karma. Yeah? Okay? So yeah, so we get very confused in that moment, you know, gee, maybe I should, it's not that bad.
So then when you say that it's the self-grasping at this I as truly existent that's propelling this confusion, that we can't figure out what to do.
Well, the I grasping at true existence is the basis of the whole thing. Out of that, you get confusion, attachment, and anger. The confusion there, or the ignorance there, is confusion about cause and effect. It's not confusion about do things truly exist or not. The ignorance that's the basis is confused about are things truly existent or not. But the confusion, when we talk about ignorance, anger, and attachment, that ignorance, that confusion is about cause and effect. Yeah. Okay. So the thing is, that confusion always creates negative karma. Okay? Because that confusion, yeah, you know, I better, you know, suicide prevention. I'll go to bed with that person, or prevent them from criticizing the Dharma. I'll go out and drink and drug with them. You know, so that always creates negative karma. Whereas the grasping at true existence that underlies all the afflictions, that is not naturally negative. That is neutral. Okay? And it also underlies our virtuous karma in samsara. Because when we create virtuous karma, too, we're still, you know, there's some I grasping in there. Yeah, I'm making offerings. I'm keeping precepts. Yeah, there's some I grasping in there. Okay, so without understanding this causal chain, you know, from ignorance to afflictions to karma, how karma gets implanted on the mind stream, how at the time of death, craving and clinging arrive, that karmic seed ripens, the mind gets propelled to another life with another body, and then there we start the whole thing all over again, because once you have another body, and you know, we're having another, still have that I grasping, got to protect ourselves, get pleasure, got to fight off threats and things that get in our way, and then we can continue to create more and more karma to be reborn again and again in cyclic existence. Okay? So what he's saying is, unless we understand this really deeply, yeah, then we're not really going to have the renunciation of samsaric dukkha that it's going to take to get us to be serious about understanding emptiness. Okay? Because to really be serious and, put our time and energy and everything into understanding emptiness, we have to really feel, to put it bluntly, that samsara sucks. As long as we don't see this causal chain and how we're bound, and as long as we see things in samsara as kind of nice and comfortable and beautiful, then, yeah, we're interested in emptiness, but, it's kind of tough to understand it. So we'll work on some other things. Yeah. You see what I'm getting at? Okay. Okay. So then 36. With these three phases mutually causing each other, cyclic existence whirls around like the circle formed by a whirling torch without beginning, middle, or end. Okay, so it's talking about three phases. When we have the 12 links of dependent arising, which are that's what describes how we take rebirth in samsara and also how we get liberated. The 12 links can be broken down into three phases or three groups, okay? One group is afflictions. Second group is karma. Third group is, it can either be called birth or it can be called suffering. They usually call it birth, but I think suffering. Dukkha. Dukkha means more. Okay, so through the 12 links, we get born again and again and again. So the first link is ignorance. Through ignorance, we create karma. That's the second link. Okay? That karma is implanted on our consciousness. Yeah? That's the third link, or part of the third link. Okay? Then, at the time of death, we crave and cling for a new body. We're in a new aggregate. We're departing from this body and mind. We want another one. Yeah, because if I don't have these, who am I going to be? Yeah, so then we have actually the 8th and 9th link. We go from the 3rd to the 8th and 9th. Are craving and clinging. Yeah, craving and clinging brings about the 10th link, which is called renewed existence. And what that is it's the karma created in the second link that's now beginning to ripen. Okay? When that karma ripens, then it throws us, it propels us into a next birth. So then we have the 11th link, which is birth. But that also comes back, and the second part of consciousness is also that birth. And then from that birth, then we develop name and form, body and mind. We develop our 6 senses. We develop contact with different objects. We have feeling. So consciousness is the 3rd, name and form is the 4th, 6th sense base is the 5th, feeling is the 6th. No, contact is the 6th, feeling is the 7th. Then we have the craving and grasping, craving and clinging. Then we have birth, the renewed existence. Then we have birth. Then we have aging and death. Okay? I don't want to go into a whole big explanation because that'll take us way off the topic, if I do. But anyway, when we divide these into 3 groups, ignorance is an affliction, and so are craving and clinging. So those 3 are afflictions. Yeah? Then there's 2 that are karmas. One is the second link, karmic formation, which was produced by ignorance. The other one that's karma is renewed existence, because that's that karma when it is ripening. Okay? So we have 3 that are afflictions, 2 that are karma, and then all the rest, birth, consciousness, name and form, all those up to aging and death, all those are dukkha, or they're often called, they're just put under the category called birth. Yeah. In other words, they're the resultant ones. Through the afflictions, we generate the karma ripens, we experience dukkha. And so remember, dukkha doesn't just mean the ouch kind of suffering, it's also the dukkha of change and the pervasive condition dukkha, okay? All of them are unsatisfactory. We want to get rid of all of them, okay? So as this verse is saying, with these, when we talk about one set of links, we go 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 12. But when we really look at it, many sets of 12 links are operating at the same time. Okay? For example, right now, we're experiencing the aging and death link from a previously created karma. We had birth when we were conceived. After that, it's all been aging and death. Well, aging and we're getting to death. That's from one karmic set of karmic links. You know, the other 11, they came before. Then, yeah, see, I talked too loud. Then we have to, at the same time that that's ripening, then we're also creating new sets of 12 links. So every time we get angry and we, say some harsh words to somebody, we're having ignorance, we're having karmic formations, the first 2, and that karmic seed is getting planted on the consciousness, the 3rd one. Okay? Then, so all through this life, we're creating the beginning factors of many, many, many karma, new sets of 12 links. At the time of death of this life, the craving and clinging from one of those sets will make that karma ripen and will propel us into the next life, which will be the links of birth, name and form, 6 sense sources, and so on, of that other birth. So if you look at it, all the links, even though we can name 1 to 12, in terms of how we're experiencing them, they're all jumbled together. It's very hard to pick out one set of 12 because they're all jumbled together in this way in terms of our experience. So that's why they say that it's like when you take a torch or a twinkler, a sparkler, and you rotate it around like this, then it looks like one circle. Even though it's different moments and things, it appears as one thing. You can't tell, there's no beginning, middle, or end. And so it is like that with our samsara. We can't see a beginning, middle, or an end because we're always creating new sets of 12 links and experiencing the results of previously begun sets of 12 links. Okay, so we have to get some sense of this and how awful it is, and how we're trapped to generate real renunciation. Yeah, and that's hard to do, on a summer day like this, Then when we think of dukkha, well, it's a little bit too hot in this room. I wish the teachings were in the other room. That's all the dukkha I see, And then, of course, go over there and then feel too cold, want it to be warmer, so maybe a little changeable one. No, not so much. I'm happy with the cold, but, get hungry, eat too much, then get hungry again. Okay, so maybe a little bit. But, aside from that, it's great here, isn't it? Yeah? Nice people, beautiful environment. I mean, could you want to be in a prettier place than this? Yeah. Do you want to be with nicer people? Yeah. We have 3 great kitties. What more could you ask for? Yeah. The ticks aren't in season now. Everything's great.
I found a tick yesterday.
No, it wasn't a tick.
Jump with gathering disciples.
Okay. Yeah. So it's hard for us to really feel like this whole thing is totally unsatisfactory. You know? And then, okay, maybe we say, oh yeah, it's unsatisfactory. Okay, I want to get out of it. And then we say, oh, but then I can't see my friends anymore. You know? If I get liberated from samsara, I can't see my friends. And my friends bring me so much happiness. And I can't see the kitties. And then we look at how attached we are. You know? But I want to keep seeing my friends. I don't want to be separated from them. Yeah? And I want to hear nice music, and I want to eat good food. And what's wrong with that anyway? That's always the big question. What's wrong with that? Okay? So you see, it's quite difficult, actually, to get some sense of what it means to be bound in samsara due to the 12 links. Yeah? There's so many things I want to do. If I attain liberation now, I won't get to do any of those things. Yeah?
Like we're still going to really want to do them.
Yeah. Well, think of all the things. You know, you still want to go live out in nature all alone by yourself. If you instead attain liberation, you know, it's like, yeah, you want to go explore other Buddhist traditions. You can't do that. You know, if you attain liberation, somebody else would, you know. Venerable Yeshe wants to build more shelves. You know? How's that going to happen if she attains liberation? You know, you don't want to be separated from karuna. Yeah. So you see, you know, it's, we get attached to all these things that by their own nature, they are impermanent. We're going to have to separate from them sometime or another. But we don't want to separate from them. You know, death will wrench us away. But liberation, well, maybe I don't want it. I want to stay with these things. You know, death I can't do anything about. Liberation I can put off for a bit. As if liberation were our enemy. Yeah, taking us away from everything we like. Yeah. Okay. So, when we meditate on this, you know, maybe we'll get some feeling for renunciation and the aspiration for liberation. And maybe we can get, you know, increase our compassion as well, seeing that other sentient beings are trapped in the 12 links just as we are, except they don't even see any problem with it. They don't know anything else. They don't even question it. It's just, you know, taken for granted. Here I am with a body. People don't ask, why do I have this body? You know, it says I have it, so let's get pleasure from it. Yeah, I have this mind. Yeah, let's get pleasure from it and, you know, have a good reputation or whatever. Okay, so to cultivate some compassion for other beings who don't see that, you know, what this is really all about. And some compassion for ourselves, how sometimes we're just totally knuckleheaded too. Yeah, aren't we? You know, totally attached to things in samsara. Don't want to be separated at all. Okay. Okay, any questions? Yeah.
We're
verse 35.
Mm-hmm.
Would it work to say, for the first two lines, as long as one grasps the aggregates, one will also grasp the I or self with regard to them,
Uh-huh.
so long as we have acquired I grasping,
Yeah.
that word. I'm just adding it in to make sure I understood the meaning.
Okay. As long as one grasps the aggregates, one will also grasp at the I with regard to them.
So long as we have acquired I grasping. That was kind of the point, right? I mean,
No, the point is a little, you phrase the point a little bit differently. Because as long as we grasp at the I, we will have I grasping. As long as we grasp at the aggregates, we will grasp at the I. You know?
yes.
Okay? But because we have to, the selflessness of the I is easier to realize. Yeah? To realize that, we have to at least depreciate the acquired self-grasping. But still, as long as we have the innate grasping at the aggregates, we're still going to have that. Yeah. I mean, okay, after you realize the self, because it's approaching it from the other angle. To eliminate the grasping at the I, you have to reduce the acquired grasping. Yeah. Then you have an inferential realization of the emptiness of the person. Then if you take that same inference and just apply it to the aggregates, then you can have an inferential realization of the emptiness of the aggregates. Yeah, but you still have at that time, because you haven't eliminated, the grasping at the aggregates. You know, when you're out of your meditation session, you still have grasping at the aggregates and grasping at the self. Okay? And even when you realize emptiness directly, during the meditative equipoise, you know, you don't have any of the self-grasping. But when you come out of it, out of that meditation, you still have the appearance, although, you know, it seems like it would be very difficult for the actual self-grasping to arise at that time, but it hasn't been completely eliminated either. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Someone asked, I'm confused about the acquired grasping and why it doesn't go from life to life. If we habitually think in a wrong way, it seems that would be carried to the next life. So can we go over why the acquired grasping is different?
The acquired grasping you learn it from somebody. Somebody teaches you the reasons. You know, like, well, things must be truly existent, because if they weren't, then they wouldn't exist at all. So somebody has to teach you that reason. So that's how it's acquired in this lifetime. You know, so it has words, it has language, it has instruction from another human being. Our innate I grasping, you know, from the moment we're conceived in our mother's womb. Yeah, it's there. Okay?
Yesterday, the forest Ken asked whether you can realize, whether you can overcome the self-centered thought before realizing emptiness directly.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, because getting rid of the the self-centered thought it's something slightly different, yeah, than this. Certainly realizing emptiness is helpful, but it's not required. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if you get rid of the self-centered thought without realizing emptiness,
Mm-hmm.
is it likely just to reappear?
No, you know, if you have very strong cherishing of others, yeah, very strong awareness of the disadvantages of the self-centered thought. You know, when you have spontaneous bodhicitta, that's when you enter the first bodhisattva path. That first bodhisattva path, the path of accumulation, has 3 phases to it. On the first phase, the bodhicitta isn't real stable, so you can lose that. But once you go on to the second phase, even you haven't realized emptiness, inferentially or directly, necessarily. You may have, you may not have realized it inferentially. But even if you haven't, your bodhicitta is still stable, okay? And the self-centeredness is you know, it's out of the picture.
And that will carry on from life to life.
Mm-hmm. So they say. Yeah. But of course, once you realize emptiness, I mean, that's going to boost the bodhicitta enormously, isn't it?
There's a comment online, someone says, I wish I could feel how frightening samsara is all the time without getting freaked out, and instead cultivate a deep belief that I can attain liberation.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I think all of us would like to do that. Yeah. Because you want to get this sense of, but not have it go into this panic, freaked out. Yeah. But you don't want to just be lying around either.